Head to Safeway this week and enjoy these amazing deals. Clip coupons from the weekly mailer or download them from the Safeway app to breeze through checkout. Get Overjoyed Boutique Dozen Roses for $24.99. Hand-dipped Belgian chocolate-covered strawberries, 4 to 18 counts, start at $7.99 per package. USDA Choice Boneless Beef Top Sirloin Steak Value Pack or Boneless Beef Tri-Tip Roast Untrimmed Twin Pack, just $5.99 per pound member price. Visit Safeway.com for more details. See you in the aisles.
Welcome to the Going to Killing City podcast, a historical look at murder in Kansas City. Here are your hosts, Jamie Green and Alex Greenwood.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Hey, Greenwood, 1 year anniversary, man.
It is.
Right?
It is not. Stop it. It is
1
not
year
a year
of us being idiots. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh! Wow. It just feels like we just started.
I know it.
Well, maybe you don't feel that way.
No, totally. It's been such a fun ride. Universal praise is a nice thing and it's rare in life, but everybody I've talked to who's listened to this podcast is loving it, and we certainly are having a good time. And it's turning out with our schedules. This is the only time we actually get to talk to each other, so that's good too. So
it's great, yeah. And we always have a hoot. And actually, I had somebody listen. Said a guy, my buddy in Indiana, he listens to it, and he said, I love your rapport, you two. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. He said, sometimes that's more fun than actually the mystery or the story you impart. I was like, and I don't take this the wrong way. I just really, I did not expect to hear that. Is what I meant. I thought people are tuning in mostly for the true crime, but it turns out a lot of people are just tuning in because they like hearing two guys being silly.
Totally. Yeah. We got that comment about how the downtown gal gets another shout out. Liked our whole breakdown of the Royals Chiefs, which I was right, by the way. Did you see that the Chiefs are going out on their own? So, not 100% surprising. They distance themselves. No, not at all. So before we get started real quick, since it's our 1 year anniversary, do us a solid. If you haven't already given us a review on Apple Podcasts, you can actually not only give us, 5 stars, but you can actually write nice things. And then you can give us the stars on Spotify, but that helps and that's good. Yeah. We will put down in the show notes our email address. We are still toying with the idea of maybe doing a tour in October, but that is all predicated on enough people signing up for Alex. Alex is got a daughter that's going to college soon. I got one done and one in still. We need to save money wherever we can. So we're happy to do it, but we're not doing it unless it pays for itself. So and
let's be clear, we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it for fun, but so if you don't know what we're talking about, we've talked about it just really quickly. We want to rent a little party bus. You know what I'm talking about, folks, if you're a person of a certain age, and then take a point by point tour of the city and not relive, but talk about things we've talked about on the show, different scenes and historical sites we can go to. And of course, stop for some drinks along the way.
Yeah. And then lastly, and then we can kind of get caught up, but I would really love if anybody here listening to us has an in with one of our local distilleries. It'd be really fun to partner with somebody. And Jay Rieger obviously is one. You and I meet at Tomstown all the time, but there are a bunch of other ones. There's one down in the West Bottoms, other things. So if you know somebody, we're shameless. We'll pimp their alcohol while drinking it. We have no shame. So
yeah, I used to know the dudes that lifted spirits pretty well, but I haven't talked to them in a while, so I'd probably be out of left field. But yeah, if you know anybody, and just we're looking product placement here. We will use their booze exclusively if they would like to just keep us in booze, and that's by the way not as daunting a proposition as you might think. I mean, seriously, we just need a little bit, but that or actually do an event at your location, whatever. We did it at that wonderful joint, and lots of people showed up, and everybody was happy. Yeah,
it was fun. All right, so I'm over jet lag and back from Ireland.
Speaking of drinking, how is the pub life over there, buddy?
I want a Scottish or Irish pub, or even an English pub. I want one of those here, and I'm going to tell people why if you have not been. Americans, we have to put a 70-inch flat screen like every 12 inches. And,
Oh my
and
God.
I hate it. And it's
I
just
do
like,
too.
you sit there and all people do is stare at the screens and they don't interact. And there's such a thing about the pub culture over there where it's about, we sat there and chatted with a guy. He was on business. He had just flown in, totally jet lagged from Tampa. We had a very nice conversation with him. Like, you just meet people and get to interact with people. We met some people all over, and I just dig it, man. I especially dig pubs that are just, there's not even a single TV. There's no food.
Yeah.
It's just about conversations, and the drinking is a sidebar. I mean, a lot of the beer over there, I don't think people know, super low in alcohol. So it's not the idea that you're just pounding it to get drunk. But yeah, we had a great time. And we also did Jameson tour, and we also did the Guinness tour. So I highly recommend those as well.
What did Kelly think?
Oh, she loved it. You know, she's half Irish.
Right.
And I will say, begrudgingly, but I will admit, my ancestral home of Ballymoral, Eustace, is very cute. It's become kind of an excerpt for rich Dubliners now. And there's a bunch of horse farm stuff, but it's cute. And you can see the Wicklow Mountains. The Dingle Peninsula, where Tralee is, which is Kelly's family, it is gorgeous. It is just stunningly beautiful. And we had we wandered all around, and it was very cool. And highly, I would go. I mean, there's something to be said for travel where you just get to immerse yourself in it and just be thinking. And we work really hard to try to find where the locals pubs, not the where all the tourists like me are. And so we sat in a really cool pub in Tralee. I couldn't even it was so dark in there, you couldn't hardly even take pictures. And watching Irish rules football, which is like half soccer. I couldn't figure it the fuck out, man. I don't know, but we had a great time, and people watching was fabulous. So,
Oh yeah. I've not been to Ireland, but I've been to England all over it, frankly. And I always enjoyed pub life once you figure it out a little bit, and I learned also, though, certain pubs I had to kind of tamp down my Americanness and just kind of be quiet, because there's some places, believe it or don't, where Americans aren't terribly welcome. At least that was the case when I was in England a few times. But in general, I always enjoyed pub life. It was a good time.
Yeah, and you're going to enjoy this. So when we were in the ancestral homeland, and this town's maybe 1,000 people, it's stinky now. They were asking, super friendly. I think anytime Americans, the roads in Ireland are terrible. So that's the one down. Just you're hanging for your life, trying not to run into a hedgerow because there's no shoulder. But we're there, and the people said, and I told them my ancestral name, and they're like, "Oh, well, there's a bunch of them here. You should go with it. They own all the butchers." And I just burst out laughing. And for people who don't know, I'm a vegan. I haven't had meat since like '89. And I was like, the Nolan family, my ancestral, apparently it's probably good I came to America, because they'd probably be pretty upset with me. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You didn't tell them, did you?
No.
Oh, I was going to say, don't tell them. No. Oh my gosh.
I didn't tell them. I chortled and thing, but they're friendly. So yes, Ireland, highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. If you get a chance, I know it's expensive. That's why I didn't get to go until my 50s. Highly recommend.
Right. Now, you saw a shebeen as well.
I did see a shebeen, dude. That's why I took that picture and sent it to you. That was really cool. No, somebody was like on Facebook. I put a bunch on Facebook, and they're like, "Man, did you go to every pub in Ireland?" I was like, "No, but we tried."
We tried. Oh man, I couldn't have been more proud of you. Way to go! I missed you, but I'm glad you had a good time. I had
a great time. Had a great time, and I Jameson tour especially was like super, super, super fun.
Is that in Cork?
That's actually the original thing is in Dublin. Yes, they actually make it down in Cork now, but they took the old factory and made it into this huge interactive. And I don't know. I'm guessing the woman that they had do the tour, which I took a picture with Kelly, where Kelly looked like she was so excited.
Yeah.
She was like, not only was she cute as a button, and just she must be a comic. Like that must be what she does at night, because she's super funny, super quick wit, super. Our type of lady, I guess, is what I'm saying, Alex. You would have dug her. She was very funny.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that photo. That was nice.
All right. So we're going to get started real quick, just so you might. This is Alex's month. He gave me the hint of The Fugitive. The Fugitive. I'm planning music underneath this later.
Yeah. So what did that spark?
So I'm going with the drink. If you have a fugitive, you've got to get together a manhunt, man. So this drink is called the Manhunt, and since I have been inspired by Jameson, I'm going to call this an Irish Manhunt. So the recipe calls for 2 ounces of Jameson Irish whiskey. I'm going to up the game and get Black Barrel. Jameson Black Barrel is my favorite.
I love the Black Barrel. Yeah.
That's my favorite. Then just 4 dashes of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of a granulated sugar, 1 splash of sparkling water, and of course our good friend the cherry. And then you dissolve that and you use a Boston shaker. What's a Boston shaker, Alex? I don't even know what the hell that is.
Boston shaker is when you have the pint glass and you have the stainless. That's how you make a Boston shaker.
Okay.
But yeah, the thing is too, a lot of people have the shakers. I have these too at home where there's a built-in strainer and all that. You use that too.
Right.
Whatever.
It's super yummy. It's very almost, I mean, it's not quite an old fashioned, but it's in that, I mean, when you got the sugar and the whiskey in it.
Yeah.
It's not quite that because there's not as much sugar in it, but it's certainly in that family. And so once again, go to the website. We're putting all that stuff on the website because we're lazy and we don't write it twice. So Killing City Pod is our website. So.
Yeah, I have had somebody say, "Oh, you're not putting the show notes directly in the show," and I said, "Nah," because we just, like you said, we don't do it twice. We don't chew our cabbage twice, and even, I know we could copy and paste, but frankly, our process, it just works better if we just put it over there. So go to killingcitypod.com and you can see that and more. And of course, there is room on that community calendar on the homepage. Again, as we said earlier. So if there's an opportunity to do a live show, we'd love to do one. Anyway. The drink, fantastic. Good choice. The Manhunt. Perfect thing when you are checking every, what is it? Hen house, dog house. I remember the line, Tommy Lee Jones. Remember that?
Yeah.
I don't remember it. And nobody can deliver a line.
Can you drink as a one-armed man, though? That's the question. Can you?
I know I could be legless after I've had a few, but not, speaking about, that's an old English saying. Anyway, well, how about this, Jamie? We have been at this, as you said, for a while, well, a year. And I thought, okay, we're coming up on our anniversary, the big, it's been a year. And I know there's people out there going, how come this one hasn't come up yet? So I thought today was the day to explore one of the darkest days in American law enforcement history, and a day that saw Kansas City claiming its notorious place in the annals of American crime. It's a day marked by tragedy, betrayal, and a bloody confrontation that not only shocked the nation, but also forever transformed the landscape of crime fighting in the United States. So, the sun rose on June 17th, 1933. That's nearly 100 years ago. And just like any other spring day in America's heartland, but outside a massive train station in Kansas City, Missouri, a grand tragedy was about to unfold. That morning, a mass murder committed in front of Union Railway Station shocked the American public into a new consciousness of the serious crime problems in the nation. The killings that took the lives of 4 police officers and their prisoner are now known as the Kansas City Massacre. The Kansas City Massacre involved the attempt by Charles Arthur Pretty Boy Floyd, Vernon Miller, and Adam Rachetti to free their friend, Frank Nash, who was a federal prisoner. At the time, Nash was in the custody of several law enforcement officers who were returning him to the U.S. Penitentiary at Leavenworth, from which he had escaped in 1930. Nash's criminal record reached way back to 1913 when he was sentenced to life at the state pen in McAlester, Oklahoma, for murder. Got Oklahoma roots here, dude. This is great. This is
got you.
Really,
I used to work at Union Station.
I have toured the penitentiary. Okay, he was later pardoned. He was pardoned in 1920. He was given a 25-year sentence at the same pen for burglary with explosives, and then later pardoned again. Interesting. On March 3rd, 1924, Nash began a 25-year sentence in the U.S. pen at Leavenworth for assaulting a male custodian. But get this, he escaped about 6 years later, in October 1930. So the U.S. Bureau of Investigation, heretofore we will continue by referring to it as the BOI, launched an intensive search for Nash, which extended over the entire U.S. and parts of Canada. Well, evidence gathered by the BOI indicated that Nash had assisted in the escape of 7 prisoners from Leavenworth on December 11th, 1931. What the hell, right?
Right. I mean, Leavenworth's supposed to be, Leavenworth.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why it is Leavenworth now. Maybe because they realized, hey, we probably ought to fix some holes.
I mean, Rambo couldn't get out of Leavenworth. I mean, that's a fact.
100%. 100%. That's a good point. Well, so the investigation also disclosed that Nash's close association with Francis L. Keating, which incidentally was the name of an Oklahoma governor about 20 years ago. Anyway, Frank Keating. Anyway, Francis Keating, Thomas Holden, and several other well-known gunmen who had participated in some bank robberies throughout the Midwest. Keating and Holden were apprehended by BOI agents in 1932 right here in Kansas City. But information gained by the BOI as a result of that indicated that Nash was receiving protection from his underworld contacts in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Talk about being in hot water, cha-cha. Based on such information, two BOI agents, Frank Smith and Joseph Lackey, and McAllister, Oklahoma Police Chief Otto Reed located and apprehended Nash in 1933 in a store in Hot Springs. So the law officers packed Nash into a car at Fort Smith and drove to Fort Smith, where at 8:30 that night, they got on a Missouri Pacific train bound for KC. Well, it was due to arrive here at 7:15 on June 17th. Before leaving, the lawmen made arrangements for Reed E. Vetterly. He was a special agent in charge of the BOI's Kansas City office to meet them at the train station. You know, it's just a handoff, prisoner handoff.
Right.
Well, meanwhile, several outlaw friends of Nash had heard of his capture in Hot Springs, and they figured out the time of scheduled arrival in KC, and they made a plan. The scheme was conceived and engineered by Richard Tolman Gladys, Herbert Farmer, Doc Stachy, and Frank Malloy. Vernon Miller was designated to free Nash, and while at Malloy's Tavern in KC, he made a few phone calls for assistance in the scheme. At about this time, two gunmen, Oklahoma's own Pretty Boy Floyd and Adam Machete, arrived here in KC, and they said, yeah, we'll join in, we'll throw in, let's go. So on their way to KC, Floyd and Machete had been detained at Bolivar, Missouri. I spent 2 weeks there one night, early on the morning of the 16th, when their car broke down. So they were waiting on the car to get fixed at a local garage. Sheriff Jack Killingsworth entered the building. Great name for a sheriff, am I right?
Oh my God, yeah. That's just like, it's a bad episode of like Justified, but please.
It really, yeah, exactly. I mean, why isn't his name, John, I'll fuck you up? I don't know. Anyway, Rachetti, who immediately recognized the sheriff, grabbed a machine gun and put the sheriff and the garage attendants against the wall. Pretty Boy Floyd drew two .45 caliber pistols and ordered them to freeze, which I'm sure they did. Floyd and Rachetti then transferred their guns and stuff into another car, and they ordered the sheriff to get in. So now they have the prisoner. Think about this, folks. They kidnapped a freaking sheriff. Yep. They drove to Deepwater, Missouri. I never heard of that one. They abandoned that car, stole another one. Then they did release the sheriff, and they got into town about 10 p.m. on June 16th. I was just going to tell you, though, there is a great book about Pretty Boy Floyd by Michael Wallace. I've had it for 30-something years. It's a great book. I met Michael Wallace, and he autographed it. He's a great guy. He's a really excellent writer. But anyway, it's just interesting, though. The sheriff, it's just funny. Sheriff Killingsworth said this about Pretty Boy Floyd after they let him go. He's a desperate man, this Floyd, but he was pretty pleasant to me all the time we were together. Floyd made no more threats. He told me to do what he asked, and we would get along all right. But I don't think any 10 men can capture him alive. We got to be plumb good friends.
Interesting.
Yeah, charming guy, I guess. But then again, I'd be charmed by anybody who doesn't murder me after kidnapping me. Anyway, So Floyd Machete, they got another car after they dumped Killingsworth, and they meet Miller, and they go to his house, and they talk about the plan to free Frank Nash. Okay, so they're all primed and ready to go, right? Early the next morning, Miller, Floyd, and Rachetti drove to what was called the Union Railway Station in a Chevy. Then they took up their positions to await the arrival of Nash and the cops. So upon arrival of the train in KC, Agent Lackey went to the loading platform, leaving Smith, Reed, and Nash in a stateroom of the train. And on the platform, he was met by Special Agent Charles Vetterly, who was accustomed by BOI Agent Caffrey and officers W.J. Grooms and Frank Hermanson of the KCPD. We always got to get the KCPD in all these things we do. I mean, right, brother? I mean, we got to talk about them. Although I think this time we're going to let them off the hook. They actually,
did they do it right for once?
Well, you'll see. They survived the area surrounding the they surveyed the area around the platform. They didn't see anything sus about it. So Special Agent Charge Vetterly told Agent Lackey that he and Caffrey had brought two cars to Union Station, and the cars were parked right outside the east door. So Lackey then returned to the train and, accompanied by Police Chief Reed, Special Agent Vetterly, Catherine Smith, and officers Hermanson and Grooms, they proceeded from the train through the lobby. So they're, you can imagine, right? It's like out of a movie. They're escorting, and I'm sure people are standing back and, gasping in horror. At the time, Agent Lackey and Chief Reed were armed with shotguns. The other officers carried pistols. Nash walked through Union Station with all 7 of those officers around. So you got shotguns and pistols. Bear in mind, Pretty Boy Floyd and his buddy had machine guns. Okay, so upon leaving Union Station, the lawmen and their captive paused for a minute, again, seeing nothing looked crazy, so they headed to Caffrey's Chevy. So Nash was handcuffed throughout the trip from the train to the car, so he's handcuffed, just to make sure, let you know that. And that car, like I said, is right on the east entrance of the Union Station. So they got out there. Caffrey unlocked the right door of the car. When the door was open, Nash started to get in the back seat. However, Lackey told Nash, no, get in the front of the car. Lackey then climbed into the back directly behind the driver's seat, and Agent Smith sat beside him in the center of the back, and Police Chief Reed sat beside Smith in the right rear seat. Okay, so then Caffrey walked around the car to get into the driver's seat through the left door. SAC Vetterly stood with the police officers at the right side near the front of the car. Well, then all of a sudden, a green Plymouth, which was parked about 6 feet away on the right side of Agent Caffrey's car, they were looking at that in that direction, and Lackey saw 2 men running from behind a car, and he noticed that both men were armed, and one of them at least had a machine gun. So before Agent Lackey had a chance to warn his buddies, one of the gunmen shouted, "Up, up," and right then Agent Smith, who was in the middle of the back seat, also saw a man with a machine gun to the right of the Plymouth, and SAC Vetterly, who was standing at the right front of the Chevy, turned just in time to hear someone shout, "Let him have it!" At this point, from about 15 feet away, an individual crouched behind the radiator of another car opened fire. The police officers, Grooms and Hermanson, dead. Dropped dead immediately. Special Agent Vetterly, who was in charge, was standing beside the officers, was shot in the left arm, and he dropped to the ground. And as he attempted to scramble to the left side of the car to join Agent Caffrey, who had not yet entered the driver's seat of the Chevy, Vetterly saw Caffrey fall to the ground. He had been fatally shot right in the head. Just dropped him right there. Okay, pandemonium. Inside the car, Frank Nash and Chief Reed were killed by bullets from the bad guy's guns, the guy they're trying to break out. So Lackey and Smith were able to survive the massacre by falling forward in the back seat of the Chevy, and he was seriously wounded by 3 bullets. And then there's Smith, who was completely unhurt. So the 3 gunmen rushed the car, and they looked inside, and one of them goes, "They're all dead. Let's get out of here." It's like, what do you guys expect? You opened fire with a machine gun. You killed your... With that, they raced toward this dark-colored Chevy, and just then a KCPD guy emerged from Union Station and began firing in the direction of Floyd, who slumped briefly but continued to run. So I don't know if he was hit or not. The killers got in the car, and they just sped westward out of the parking lot to make a getaway. So the 3 survivors, Agent Smith and Lackey and SAC Vetterly, said that the gun battle lasted possibly 30 seconds, tops. Just imagine all those deaths and all that mayhem, 30 seconds.
Like
they were uncertain.
It's like De Palma. It's what that scene would have been like, right?
I kept hearing, so you kept saying you're hearing that music. The Fugitive, all I could hear was the theme to The Untouchables. The De Palma Untouchables, all that. So they're uncertain if 3 or 4 gunmen staged the assault, and from their account, it was apparent that, like I said, the 2 KCPD officers were killed. So you know what? Let's seriously, they gave their lives line of duty. They didn't have a chance. Machine gun, come on.
I know. Yeah. And then for people who have been paying attention, remember one of those machine guns shows up in episode 1.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah,
dude,
if you that killed Johnny Lazio used one of those machine guns that was used in the Union Station massacre. So.
See what we're doing here. We're connecting. It's been a year. We're connecting.
Right back to number 1.
There we go. You just go check the show notes, but there should be a link to that episode. If not, if you can't find it, don't worry. Just go to our website, killingcitypod.com, and go to episode 1.
And for people who have never been down to Union Station, you can still see the bullet holes. They're still there.
I've got some news about that too. I'll save it for the end.
All right.
Okay, so Agent Caffrey was taken to the hospital and pronounced dead on arrival, because then Frank Nash and Chief Reed were also dead in the car. So the BOI immediately initiates an investigation to figure out who the gunmen are. They don't know. they developed evidence that the scheme was carried out by Vernon Miller, Adam Machete, and Pretty Boy Floyd. So by the way, he's called Pretty Boy because a woman thought he was very good looking, and it stuck. The newspapers, they always do that. They find something, the hook, and that's what happened. The evidence included latent fingerprint impressions located by the agents on beer bottles in Miller's KC home. That, remember, the night before they were all figuring it out, and they identified as those of Ricchetti, and that helped to link him to the crime. So Vernon Miller, 37 years old, who had led the killings at Union Station. He had grown up in South Dakota, was in the U.S. Army during World War I, and he received extensive training as a machine gunner. Following his release from the Army, he was in South Dakota, where he told stories of heroism in the war. He also demonstrated to city officials that he was a crack shot, following which he was elected to the position of policeman in 1920. 2 years later, get this, Jamie, he was elected sheriff and was renominated for the position. But before the election, he disappeared and went into a life of crime. It's like the Old West, like I always say about Wyatt Earp and his brothers. They were thugs in one town and cops in another. It just seems like that was how it went.
Man.
Yeah. So Miller's criminal record indicated he'd been arrested in 1923. He did time at the pen in Sioux Falls. He was indicted in federal court later for violating the National Prohibition Act, which, of course, that case was dismissed after, I think it was after repeal. But then he moved to St. Paul, Minnesota, and Chicago, and that's where he got in with the underworld gangs. And following the KC Massacre, Miller and his girlfriend, Vivian Matthias, traveled to Chicago and got there around June 19th, right? So a few days there, he hid out with a member of the Barker Carpus gang, and then he went to New York. Well, anyway, on Halloween 1933, the BOI learned that Miller and Vivian were back in Chicago at her apartment. And so that next day, he escaped the trap set for him there by the BOI. However, Vivian Matthias was taken into custody and later pled guilty to charges of harboring and concealing Miller. So on November 29th, 1933, during the BOI search for Miller, his mutilated body was found in a ditch on the outskirts of Detroit, Michigan. He had been beaten and strangled, and information received by the BOI indicated that Miller had been involved in an altercation with a henchman of Longy Zwillman, head of New Jersey's underworld mob in Newark. During the argument, Miller had shot the henchman, so another one of Zwillman's associates reportedly retaliated by brutally murdering Miller. Just it's the company you keep. Meanwhile,
hey, can I just break in for a second? Because I thought this and I had to confirm it, but I think you're going to find this interesting too. So that hideout, that house that Pretty Boy Floyd was hiding out in, that was in Armour Hills. And Armour Hills is where I lived for 11 years and super close to where you lived.
Right. In
so it's
Rock Hill Gardens.
6612 Edgeville Road, right in the middle of Armour Hills. So that neighborhood, that house is still there. That's about 4 blocks from where I lived for 11 years. So I was like, I think that's true, but I had to look it up. So
that the house is still there?
House is still there.
Ooh, is it a nice looking house?
It's very cute. It's very Armour Hills. We can put this in our website too, and people can look at it. But it's a lovely neighborhood. We loved living there when our kids were little. So
yeah, it's a great area. Okay, so the BOI's hunt for Pretty Boy Floyd and Adam Machete is of course intensified. So Pretty Boy was about 29 when this happened, and he had been arrested many times. First by the St. Louis PD in 1925 for literally highway robbery. That's highway robbery. He pled guilty to that charge, or pleaded guilty, depends on which lawyer you talk to. In December of 25, he went to the state pen at Jefferson City, Missouri, and then he got out 4 years later. And then in May of 1930, he was arrested by the Toledo, Ohio Police Department on a bank robbery charge. And then November 24th, 1930, was sentenced to 12 to 15 years in the Ohio State Pen. Well, guess what he did? Pretty Boy escaped en route to the penitentiary and was a fugitive when he became involved right here in the KC Massacre. Now, Ricchetti was about 23 at the time, and he began his criminal career with an arrest in Hammond, Indiana in 1928 for a holdup. He was sentenced from 1 to 10 years in the state reformatory in Pendleton, Indiana for that. He was paroled in 1930 and discharged from the parole in 1931. His next arrest occurred in 1932 at Sulphur, Oklahoma, which just terribly was just devastated by a tornado not a week ago. Just awful. For bank robbery, he subsequently served a sentence at the state pen in McAllister. They call it Big Mac. Anyway, he was released in 1932, placed on a bond, which he, of course, immediately forfeited. And he subsequently was sought for jumping the $15,000 bond and was wanted at Tishomingo, Oklahoma for robbery. It's just, these people are just, folks, there's no way around it. They're just hardened freaking criminals. So after fleeing from the massacre here in KC, they both made their way to Toledo, Ohio, where they met Beulah, also known as Juanita, and Rose Baird in early September of 33. And from there on, the four traveled to Buffalo, New York. And soon, using the names of Mr. and Mrs. George Sanders, Floyd and Beulah, and then Rachetti and Rose Baird using the names Mr. and Mrs. Ed Brennan. By the way, use those names when you check into a hotel. Rented an apartment in that city. The other occupants of the apartment building said that the two couples were mysterious because they seldom left the apartment, and that was usually just for groceries. And during that time, Pretty Boy Floyd reportedly walked from the front to the rear of the apartment almost constantly. And everybody thought that was weird. They could just hear him walking. And the two couples never visited with any of their neighbors, though they were friendly toward the neighborhood children who sometimes were permitted to enter the apartment. The women occasionally threw money from the windows of the apartment to the children playing in the street or offered them candy.
Well, if you want to be not discovered, don't do that.
It's like, who's giving people money in the early 30s for anything? Yeah, it's crazy.
Height of the Depression.
What the hell? So in October 34, the couples thought, all right, we're going to go back to Oklahoma. So Rose Baird was given money to go buy a car. She got a Ford sedan, which was to take them there. So they started the trip on October 20th that year with Floyd driving. A few hours later, near Wellsville, Ohio, he skidded the automobile into a telephone pole. He was probably texting. I don't know. Probably. Floyd and Rachetti removed their guns from the car and stayed on the outskirts of the town while Rose and Beulah took the damaged car into Wellsville garage for repairs. Well, and when they were in there, the police chief, J.H. Fultz, following up on reports that two suspicious-looking men were seen on the outskirts of town. That's just crazy. You just think about that. Found the two resting in a wood tract of land nearby, and they naturally had a gun battle. Chief Fultz apprehended Rachetti after he had emptied his gun at the officer, and I guess he missed. Floyd, of course, escaped, but the police chief thought Floyd might have been wounded. So the BOI and local authorities conducted a big manhunt, and probably drank a good drink with it. They interviewed a lot of people to find out, who he was. They looked for doctors and hospital people to see if he might have been wounded, all that stuff. So anyway, they had a squad of 4 agents led by Melvin Purvis, G-Man, along with a squad of 4 East Liverpool, Ohio police officers headed by the chief of police. And they were jointly patrolling a group of roads south of Clarkson, Ohio, in 2 cars when they noticed an automobile move from behind a corn crib on a farm. So the officers have been questioning all persons who they saw, and to question the occupants of this automobile, they wanted to stop the car. At that point, the vehicle that had attracted their attention went back to its original position behind the corn crib, and a man who the officers immediately recognized as Floyd jumped from the car with a .45 caliber automatic pistol in his right hand. And as the officers got up to him, he said, "I'm done for. You've hit me twice." So they took the pistol from his hand, took the other gun he had in his belt, and they went to get an ambulance to take him to the hospital. They were accompanied by a local citizen who witnessed the whole thing. Anyway, they got to the hospital. Floyd died about 15 minutes after he was shot. And he was done for. So at the time he was killed, a watch and fob consisting of a lucky piece were found on his person. Groups of 10 notches were found on each of these items. Some say it was reportedly carved by Floyd to show the number of people he had killed. Yeah. So the ladies, Rose and Beulah, who were in the garage taking care of the car that was being repaired, overheard a discussion of Rachetti being taken into custody, and they immediately fled to KC Mo. They traveled to the home of Floyd's family in Sallisaw, Oklahoma, where they attended the funeral of Charles Pretty Boy Floyd. And I just have to tell you this. This was right out of Michael Wallace's book. I'm kind of jumping here, but 1 year from the day that Floyd died, there was an advertisement. It was a poem, and it ran in the Kansas City Star. It was a memorial to Pretty Boy Floyd, placed by Beulah and Rose and Adam Rachetti. And here it is, if you don't mind. Pardon my rendition. "We never knew what pain he had. We did not see him die. We only knew he passed away and did not say goodbye. We are thinking of you, Daddy dear, thinking of the past. You left behind some broken hearts that loved you to the last. That never did, nor never will, forget you, Daddy dear. And while you rest in peaceful sleep, your memory will shall always keep." So that's what happened to Pretty Boy. Okay, so wrapping it up. You're like, At last, thank God.
No. This is one we had to do. I'm glad you had to do it because
I know. I mean,
it's
right?
a lot of work, man.
We were both sitting there. I know, just thinking, God, I hope Jamie does this one. But it was. But I knew we were coming up on an anniversary, and I thought, we better. All right. So Ricchetti, was returned to Kansas City, Missouri, and was indicted by the Jackson County grand jury on 4 counts of murder in the first degree. At his trial, it was predicated on the indictment charging him with the murder of Frank Hermanson, one of the cops here. And on June 17th, 35, the jury returned a verdict of guilty with the recommendation that Ricchetti be given the death penalty. He was sentenced to be hanged. He appealed, but it was affirmed by the state Supreme Court. So then his lawyers said, Ricchetti's insane. And a hearing was held at which his sanity was clearly established. So that didn't work. August 31, 1938, Ricchetti was again sentenced to death, this time in the gas chamber at the state pen in Jeff City. And that happened on October 7th, 1938. Richard Galatas, Herbert Farmer, Doc Stasi, and Frank Malloy, who the investigation decided had engineered the conspiracy to free Nash, were indicted by a grand jury in 1934. And in 35, they were found guilty of conspiracy to cause escape of a federal prisoner. And on the following day, each was sentenced to serve 2 years in the federal pen and pay a fine of $10,000, the maximum penalty allowed by law.
That seems pretty light.
Well, think of all the freaking pardons. Okay, here we go. We'll get to that. So the Kansas City Massacre, it was this dark chapter for law enforcement and for the BOI in particular. And at that time, it was one of the deadliest attacks on law the nation's seen. Here's what's interesting even more. Within a year of the tragedy, Congress responded by giving BOI agents statutory authority to carry guns and make arrests. They didn't really have it by statute. They had to get special permission to do those things up to that point. In July 1935, as the capstone of its newfound identity and successful fight against gangsters, the organization was renamed the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. So, you could say the FBI was conceived right here in Kansas City at Union Station. Now, to your point, Jamie,
yes.
I had to investigate this because, by the way, it has been said that there are marks on the front of the building at the Union Station that for years, local lore claimed as bullet holes from the shooting. But tests recently done by the Kansas City, Missouri police showed the marks could not have come from bullets. This is on the website of Union Station where I found it. Because I thought that too, and I'd seen them. I thought those look like bullet holes to me, but they're saying that
pointing them out for years, apparently erroneously. So,
but you know what? As they say, sometimes you just got to print the legend. It's better than the truth. So that's Kansas City Massacre, and it's a lot, but it's just fascinating to me. And by the way, there'll be a link to this book in the show notes because if you're just interested in that era when these, Dillinger and people like Pretty Boy Floyd and all these gangsters. But what's stunning to me, Jamie, is these guys committed these really horrific crimes. Murder, pardoned. I mean, how corrupt was the legal system? I mean, for reals. Really,
a lot. Apparently, I don't even know which governor, which state was these guys pardoned in.
It's on several of them, but it's just that's what's interesting. It's either that or there really was a very liberal view of second chances, which I think is obnoxious because these people are clearly deranged. And it's funny that Pretty Boy Floyd's mother, Mamie, had said Charles has not done 1/1000th of the crimes he has been accused of.
Always a mother, man.
Yeah, right. Anyway, he's a bit of a folk hero in Oklahoma,
Really?
But to some, not to everybody.
That's what always the James brothers. That always drives me up the wall. I'm like, they're murderers, or Quantrell. I'm like, no.
yeah. It's 100%. And like I said earlier, the Earps. I mean, come on, it's a legend. They were not great people, but anyway, they were also a product of their age. But anyway, what do you think though? Have you always kind of, you said you dreaded doing it on the show because it's a lot, but what do you think about the massacre? Does any of it surprise you? Did you learn anything new?
Well, the big trope, but it's pretty true that most criminals are pretty dumb. So
yes,
this was not a well thought out. I mean, the fact that within the first few seconds, the guy you're supposedly going to be freeing, you've murdered.
They aired him out pretty quick.
Yeah. In fact, that poem should have had something about made you into Swiss cheese or something. I don't know. So, horribly, thought out. It's interesting because it always, like you said, it's really what made the FBI become the FBI because of the outrage. It's certainly a hallmark as far as a new era in Kansas City, which is the whole, the 30s were a dangerous, deadly place, and a lot of times it was with Tommy guns, and that's a whole another ball of wax. It's very historic. That the 30s are I think of all the decades in Kansas City, I think the 30s are the most fascinating because you have this bifurcation. You have all the crime on the one side, but in tandem with that, you have all this wonderful music that happens because musicians could come here,
right,
and play all night. Because if you're corrupt and you are still selling alcohol, people are still going to clubs,
right.
So they always wondered, would the great music, the Kansas City Stomp, and all the great musicians came out of this town, would that have happened if it had been a town that actually had prohibition? I doubt it. So
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, I want to add that, and I'll put a link in the show notes, but I am indebted to the FBI.gov has a history section that really did help me kind of line all this out. And so I want to make sure everybody understands that I obviously borrowed heavily from their narrative because there it was, but I always wanted to add in the Michael Wallace stuff to it. I'm going to include a link, and I think since this is a government site, I'm going to lift some of these pictures. I've even got Pretty Boy Floyd's death mask, which was made obviously right after his death. I've got a picture of that to show you guys, to put in the links. And there's pictures of the officers at Union Station where everything happened. I've got fingerprints of some of the criminals. They'll all be in the show notes at killingcitypod.com. It's really interesting, yeah. There's always this gauzy kind of semi... and as I already alluded to, there's this kind of romanticism placed on this time. Like if you've ever watched Bonnie and Clyde, the movie, but and they kind of, they're slaughtered in the end by law enforcement, just absolutely peck and pod. But they still try to make it kind of this weird love story thing. Yeah. To me, there's just really nothing romantic about bleeding out in a Model T. But I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. But.
No, it's totally. Well, I'm a native Nebraskan. They try to do that with Charlie Starkweather.
Right, that's right.
And Caroline Fugate. And I was like, no, they're just, Charlie Starkweather was, a spree killer, which I don't think we really have talked about spree killers. And my junior high social studies teacher went to school with Charlie Starkweather and said that guy was a piece of shit his whole life. Like, so I think they just did something on Starkweather again recently. Obviously, the Bruce Springsteen album, Nebraska, is all about Starkweather. And I've never understood why it intrigues people. It seems like he was a worthless individual who murdered a lot of people and terrified an entire state before he was caught. But I think Caroline Fugate's still alive.
Is she really?
Yeah. Well, she was only 14 when that happened, which is a whole. That's like Jerry Lee Lewis, like not good.
Yeah.
And was in prison for a number of years, right? And now she's been freed for a while. But to her credit, she doesn't talk to anybody, which at least somebody has shame. I feel like there's a lot of, not a whole lot of shame in the world right now. So I'm glad that she's too ashamed to talk about it. So
yeah, I'm with you on that, man. Look at the world we live in now. There is no shame. That's why certain political movements are succeeding, because people, I'm a liar. I don't care. It's just that simple. It's really despicable. As a culture, we've got to reclaim shame, or we're going right down the tubes, in my opinion. But anyway, that's another. This
will be great for the tour, man. Let's pimp the tour. And Union Station, you've got to look at that. Not only the murders that have happened outside of but all the people who have traveled through Union Station.
Oh my gosh! And by the way, folks, if you've never visited Kansas City, even if you don't come in by train, Union Station is a magnificent edifice and beautifully restored. There's restaurants in there. There's stuff to do. There's a science complex attached to it. It's a great. This message brought to you by the KC Visitors Bureau here. I'm just saying, but by the way, KC Visitors Bureau, if you we could use a sponsor. But I'll tell you, it's a magnificent structure, and you're right in the center of a lot of hotels in that area. And you can get on the streetcar that stops there and take the streetcar down to Tomstown, not far away. Yep. Some of our favorite watering holes. Seriously, Jamie. If there's people who listen who've never been here or don't know. Wouldn't you say it's a great place? I love to go to Pierre Ponce for martinis.
Just the history there. It's
the conductor club.
I worked in there for like 7 or 8 months before I moved on, and it's they just don't build buildings like that anymore.
Was that the chamber there, or where?
Chamber moved over there.
Yeah,
back in 2010, 11 was when it would have been. And it was all because at the time it was dying. They didn't have enough revenue to keep it going on. And I mean, I forgot what the electricity bill is for Union Station for 1 month, but you can imagine it's that massive and how, and the grand, foray, that huge, I don't know, 10-story high. I don't know how
it's huge. Yeah.
It's
gorgeous.
Not easy to heat and air condition it effectively and efficiently.
Yeah. And by the way, cocktail fans, they have something called the Conductor Club. And it's this little pocket bar. And what they do is it used to be seasonal, but it's more often than that now. But they would do theme bars. They did one about Jaws. They did one about Universal Monsters. They've done ones. Oh my gosh, there's comedies. There's Christmas Vacation. They do that. It's a theme bar. They decorate this little pocket bar. It can only hold about 25 people, really. I did one where they did kind of a Camp Crystal Lake thing, and they had like built the bunk beds like from the movies, from the Friday the 13th movies. But it's so much fun. But the deal is this. They announce it and they almost immediately sell out of spaces because you can't just go in. You've got to get appointments. But my wife and I have been in there numerous times for different things, and it's always a delight. So there's always fun stuff going on in Kansas City, especially at Union Station in that area. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah. Go to Pierpont's and sit at the bar at Pierpont's where the bar is so massive they actually have to get on there's a ladder that they roll around to get to some of the booze because it's
so great.
That's such a cool space, too.
And they still make those signature pineapple martini drink. Oh my gosh, that's pretty nice too. But I've gone there and I've gone on there and just enjoyed a martini or two, just to enjoy the ambiance and enjoy a really well poured drink. We
go to there every year for Christmas. Because the Christmas decorations are just off the charts at Union Station, and we'll go and have a cocktail at Pierpont's while we're there.
Yeah, so. And boy, you haven't seen anything until you've seen Union Station dressed up after the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So come back next year when they win again. We'll see. But if they do a three-peat, my dog, that place is going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts.
It already is nuts here.
Well, that's true.
Well, I got to tell you this story, and then we can wrap up. So we are, and this is how things have fallen. Alex, this is how the mighty fallen. So we're getting our tickets at the Jameson tour. And the guy that's checking it, he's Irish. Like you can tell he's from Ireland. And so he says, where are you guys from? And we say Kansas City. And he goes, oh, don't tell me that. I hate Kansas City. I'm kind of taken aback because why? He is a San Francisco 49ers fan. And he went on this huge thing about how the Chiefs have broken his heart. And I said, well, you're not going to like me any better. I'm a Cowboys fan. He goes, oh, I don't really care about you because that's where it happened. So I told Kelly was a little bag, and I said, see, now you see what I put up with for decades. When we won all those championships in a row, all these people will tell you without any prompting how they hate your team. But that actually is a good thing because that means your team is stomping a lot of people's dreams on their way. So I thought you would enjoy knowing that there's some guy in Dublin that you're breaking his heart.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair cop. And if you're listening, sir, which you're probably not, what can I tell you? We earned it. We had our years in the wilderness. We earned it, and I've resolved that. Even if we don't, okay, I'm not trying to jinx this, but even if we never win another championship, I lived during the greatest era of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, come on, man, that's a lot. That's really great. But this is so much fun. But I guess we should let everybody know what's going on next with us, shouldn't we?
Yeah. So we're gonna. It's been a year. We're going to take off a few months for the summer. We will be back August 15th. So we're going to take June 15th and July 15th off. Part of this is just to kind of rejuvenate ourselves. Part of it is because we have to travel. Part of it is that we're lazy. Whatever works for you. Alex is super busy. I'm actually got some stuff going on too and things. And so we'll be back then and don't, send us an email because we were thinking really about doing this tour. So I'd love to come back and be able to announce.
Yeah, we will work behind the scenes on that, trying to get that to go. Right. A little bit. We'll see what we can do on that. Jamie, we've got to figure out, and we'll talk more offline. We got to figure out how to kind of really gauge interest in it, maybe set up kind of a thing. And we got to do the investigation on how much the party thing the bus would cost. Cause we want to get something where we can get at least 10 people. 10 people would be a nice number, maybe 15. Get on a little party bus and just drive around and everybody can have a cocktail or, nobody has to drive. But the other thing too is folks, as long as my compadre here doesn't mind, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a long weekend next weekend somewhere that will involve Moss cocktails. So I may, if it's okay with Jamie, just post some pics from that.
Absolutely, do it
and stuff like that. So
I
we'll
should
watch
put
that.
some of my Ireland bar pics up on the Killing City.
I was a little sad that you didn't. I thought you would post about that because you drink in hand, man. You got to do it.
I was so jet lagged at points, but now I'm back. So no, I will do that. So that's it for this time.
Mm-hmm.
Great one, man. Really well done.
Oh, thank you. And happy anniversary, brother. As a reminder, this, by the way, I always give Jamie the credit. This is your concept and you've made it what it is. So, and I'm just thrilled to be along for the ride. So it's been a great year. I was kind of afraid you're gonna let me go because I don't know if you know, but Jamie.
Who would I replace you with? Who would put up with my nonsense? No,
I don't know, but Jamie, and I don't mean to be going a downer. But hey, by the way, look, we got to do it. We got to. So after 4.5 years, Jamie's brilliant music show where he's interviewed Grammy winners, he's interviewed legends, he's interviewed just some wonderful working musicians. He's finally you're turning off the amps, aren't you?
Yeah, it was just time. I just got to where it started to feel like a job that wasn't paying. And, if you're going to do something, and that's how I feel about this podcast or anything, do it right. So there's a lot involved. I never went into any of those 160 episodes, which is insane.
Yes.
I always did research ahead of time and always, some people I would know a lot about, but a lot of people I didn't know. And it was good. And it just got to be such a time commitment that I was like, I'm starting to lose the juice for it.
Yeah.
And I always have appreciated when people walk away before it gets sad and you can tell there's no interest in it. And so Billy and I talked, and Billy was flipping houses when he's not mixing things too, which is nuts. He's crazy busy too. And I'm like, it's just too much now. So I'm taking a break from music podcast. I've had a couple people like, well, you would do something. I was like, if I'm ever doing this again, it's got to pay off the bat. And I don't want to produce it, which, as you know, producing a podcast is a lot more work than people think it is.
Yeah. I
always have schmoes come up and say, I'm going to start a podcast. And then you actually tell them what's all involved with starting the podcast. And most of them beg off because it's not, they just think they're going to get on here and yammer and that's it. But there's all other things you have to do.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You came to me and asked me how I did mine before you started trading fours. And I don't know if you recall, maybe you do now. I tried to dissuade you. I made it sound harder than maybe it could have been because I just said, dude, it's a lot. And, and I'll just be real, I know we got to go, but I'll just say this. I'll be really candid with listeners. I do two other shows, Mysterious Goings On for books and all that stuff, and then PR After Hours. But I've since changed my career. I'm still a PR guy, but I work for a university now. I don't run my own shop. And I'm questioning, whether I really need to continue because I've done 300 episodes of that plus, and I met tons of great people who I value. But it's so funny because I had several people say when they heard I had a new job, oh, please don't shut down the show. But the thing is, and the show got named top 20 for 2 or 3 different lists this year. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, crap, I've got this momentum going here. I've not made real money at it, but I've had sponsors here and there. I'm kind of wondering what to do with it right now, Jamie. So I don't know, listeners, but I will tell you this. If I do end it, I won't end it. I'll just stop producing, and then if I can start up again, you're a subscriber, all of a sudden I'll reappear in your feed. I don't know if you're shutting down Trading Force feed completely, or I mean, you don't know yet.
I think if I did, I might take a different take. The biggest issue, and I know because even you watch these videos, Rick Beato has kind of perfected what I was doing.
But you really have the skills, though. I mean, I like Rick Beato a lot, but you have it too. But isn't there room for both of you? Come on, I think so.
I don't know. it's one of the things I'm thinking about, and then we'll really talk about next month. I have all my dad's vinyl, which is hundreds of them, and so I was thinking about doing a podcast called Dad Albums, where I had musicians come in and talk about and it doesn't have to be, it can be your mom too, but just about their influence of their parents' music on their music. And I might do that at some point because I think it would be kind of cathartic for me too. Whatever I put an album on that's my dad's, which my dad being my dad was super type A. He was not like me. He would stamp on the back of it, property of Earl Green on every single album. So I know it's a dad album because he's let everybody know. So I might do that, but that would be because I was like, I want to, how do I delineate myself from all these other music podcasts? And I was like, well, maybe we talk about parents and how they influence, because 90% of musicians probably that I've talked to, they had a parent that was musical, or maybe both parents. And it's music was so ubiquitous in my house growing up. We used to joke that my dad and I, if we were ever on Name That Tune, we would just clean up between the two of us. There's just nothing you can stump us with. But anyway, so we'll see. Well, but I'm going to enjoy the break, man. I'm enjoying the break.
You know what? You deserve it. You earned it. And that's the thing, don't let anybody give you a hard time and say, oh, come on. It's like, it's like you said, we do it. It's a labor of love, but it would be nice to get a little love financially, because just a little, but that's not the reason I do it either. But it is always nice to get that affirmation. Okay, well, this has been great. So you and I will talk, obviously, but listeners, please, if you miss us, don't forget there's a whole year's worth of stuff that you can go back and listen to, re-listen to some of it if you want. Tell a friend, and we're going to come back rested, ready, and excited to tell you about more creepy, wonderful, fun, mysterious things that have happened in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's right. You got your pen and paper. You ready for your hint? I mean, you're not going to have to make a drink for months, but.
Oh, I think I'll be making drinks anyway. Oh, you mean for the show? Gotcha. Okay, what is my hint, my brother?
The hint is, who let the dogs out?
Oh boy, that's funny because you just said your neighbors are replacing their fence, so hopefully you're not letting the dog out.
No, you got to watch him. Don't want him to do a runner.
Oh my goodness. Well,
it's good to see you, man.
You too, man. You're looking really well. I'm glad you had a good trip. You earned it, buddy. I'm glad you and Kel had a good time.
All right. So until August 15th, website will be updated the whole time. Reach out to us. All that's in our website, how you can reach out to us. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in August.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. You call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time, 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.